Hello, it's Sally here. You've probably been watching Toby's very useful videos about how to get started with SketchUp and the Shoot Planner. I work on a Mac and there are a few key differences in how the Mac SketchUp interface works compared to Windows. So this video is just to cover a few of those. Most things work the same, but there are just a few key differences, and especially when you're setting up your workspace. So the first main difference that I noticed is the template. So when you want to set up your own template in SketchUp, if you go to SketchUp on the top bar and go to Settings, and then along here you've got a choice of different things you can alter yourself, but you go to Template and you will have again, it's very similar, probably exactly the same templates, but you choose the template that you want to work, so whether it's metric or imperial, and which units you want, so various different ones, but just pick whichever one. I personally like to start in a plan view, but so let's say you pick that one. It's now selected, so you can close that, and that does mean that when you set up, when you open a new one, it would open as that, say new, and it's that one I just selected. If you want to set up your own template, you do so in very much the same ways that Toby shows, and I won't go into all of those. And then you file and save it as a template, again similar to the Windows thing. Make sure that that's ticked, and that will then become your template. The main difference, I think, is when you go to choose one. So if you say new from template rather than just new, say you wanted to change the template, the ones that you've saved as your own template don't show here on this first landing page. You've got a second page here which shows your individual ones. So that would then open the one that you've just saved as a template. And if you ticked that box, save as default, then that will be the one that always opens up. So that's just slightly different. And then the other real key difference is this top bar here, the toolbar. How you edit that is different, and you right click on it and say customize toolbar. What you can't do on the Mac, which you seem to be able to do on Windows, is drag things into that top bar. But so you right click and say customize toolbar, and what you get here is you start with a default one, which is this tray here, and so if ever you want to go back to that, you can just drag that back up and it will go back to the default. But you can add whichever ones you want, and so let's just add, for example, the shoot one. So you just click it and drag it and place it wherever you think you want it, and let go, and it's now going to be on your toolbar. One thing I find with the Mac, the toolbar doesn't double stack as it does on the Windows one. So what happens, let me just come out of that for now, but what happens is, depending on the width of your screen, the only ones that you see are what fit on the width of your bar, and so other ones that you've added are hidden, and you have to click on those little arrows. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong one there. So you click on that little arrow. Oh, I know what's happened here. So you click on this because there are more to show, and there are the rest of your shortcuts there. So I consider this to be quite important kind of prime retail estate. So I try and have really the ones that I use all the time showing. Another thing just to mention here is you get a choice of whether you show the icon and the text, or just the icon or the text only. And when you're beginning, it's probably useful to have the text as well as the icon, because you won't necessarily remember all of them. But once you've got the hang of them and you know what they are, I personally prefer just to have the icon because you just get a bit more space. And I organise mine so that the ones that I use all the time are over this side, so that I don't get that issue where I have to click down to find them. I think Toby's mentioned, but you get tool keyboard shortcuts. So things like the eraser, I don't need there because I would never click on that. I would use E, which is the keyboard shortcut. So you can actually get rid of that. And to get rid of them, you literally just pull them off the toolbar. So push pull I would never use that for. So you, and that may, these all shunt up and you get more space. So that's one key difference. And the other difference really is that we don't get, on a Mac, you don't get a tray. Toby refers to pulling down the tray. What you get is a series of windows. And so these are, this is the Mac equivalent of the tray, but these are floating. They don't appear as part of your SketchUp screen. These are floating completely independently. When you click on them, they expand and you can control the size that they display. But just to be aware that those are free floating rather than a tray. And similarly with the toolbars, you get them in the same way. So it's clicking on the view and then ticking which ones you want to see. So here you've got tool palettes and you click on whichever ones you want to see. So if you've got a particular extension and you now want to see that, you would, so for example, if I want to see the sandbox, you would tick on that. And again, in the same way, these are free floating. So I try and leave them over towards the left. It will just click there, but it's not part of your SketchUp window. So one of the real differences, I think, with Mac and PC with SketchUp is just finding where all the preferences are. So I don't think it shows on this recording, but I'm now clicking on SketchUp on the top bar. And when you click on that, so a lot of the settings are under settings. We looked at the templates ones, but there you've got shortcuts, and I think Toby and I would both really recommend that you use shortcuts as much as possible because it speeds up your modelling a lot. You can set your own. I don't really propose to go into how you do that at this stage, but it's just worth knowing that you can. So things that you use all the time, you can set up your own shortcuts. But this is where a lot of the settings are in SketchUp preferences. And then the other place they are is in model info. So to find model info, you'd go to window on your top bar. Again, that's just out of view on the video, but window. And then you've got a dialog box here for model info. And if you open that, that shows you then a lot of things that you can control within this specific model, including measurement units and so on. So those are the two ways that you control on your Mac preferences. And another key difference, I think, is the paint bucket. So it's similar to PC in that you've got a tool for it, and also you've got a shortcut called B for bucket, same as PC. The interface is a bit differently. Again, it's a floating window. This one doesn't actually dock and stick to these ones here. So you've got standard colours, and if you were to, say for example, be looking for a green, but that wasn't the green you want, you can then go over to the colour wheel here and change it, or change it with this. You've got an opacity controller here. You've also got materials, and to find those you just click down on that arrow, and then you've got a whole load of preloaded ones. You can also set up your own library, and again, I'm not going to go into detail how you do that, but just really so that you know you can do it, so that if there are things that you use, colours that you use all the time, and textures, you can get them. I think now with the advent of AI rendering and the sophistication of rendering, you don't even need to really worry too much about the textures that you use in your model, because if you render the picture, if it's a vast expanse of grass and it's green, it knows it's grass, or you prompt it to know it's grass. If you are looking for anything specific, you can either find colours and load them online. Again, it's a bit more technical probably than you need now, and equally you've got 3D Warehouse. You can search for textures or colours there. But it is a good idea to try and keep your model size down, and using fancy textures often really bloats the size of the model. So really I'd advise you just stick with pretty standard colours for now. So I think those are the prime differences in the interface of how the Mac works compared to Windows. Really pretty much everything else I think is the same.